welcome you out to our store tonight. Tonight you're going to see something about your health, your wealth, and your future that is the most important thing to you, to your health that there ever was, and it's the water you drink. Because you are 71% water, there's nothing more important to you than the water you drink in your life. Water is so important to our body that every organ in our body runs on water. We're lubricated with water, we're heated with water, we're cooled with water. When we get something in our eye, water comes there to wash it out. Water is so important. Water carries nutrients into our body. There's nothing more important to our health, our wealth, and our future than the water we drink. And tonight you're going to have a lot of questions as we do the show. And I'd like you to hold those questions to the end. And I probably will answer most of your questions as we go through this show. Now, throughout this show, you're going to see some things about water that you've probably never seen before. And I want you to think about it and make a decision in your own personal life what you're going to do about the water you're drinking, because that's your job tonight as we go through this show, is to decide what kind of water you're going to drink from now on. You're going to learn some things about water that you've never learned before. Now we're going to show you some water. This is tap water, and we're going to kind of like put this on a trial tonight, and we're going to prove that this water is absolutely filthy and unable to do the job that water was intended to do. This is distilled water. We're going to prove that it's pure water. It's absolutely pure, and it's the water we should put in our body. And we'll be able to see the difference between these two waters real quick. The first test we're going to do with water is called the boil test. And what we do is we boil down a half a cup of distilled water in this pot over here. It's the only thing my wife lets me cook. And then we're going to boil down a half a cup of tap water in this pot over here. Now, these waters are clean. When that water is all boiled out of those pots, the only thing that should be left in there is nothing, right? If the water's clean. We'll see which water is the cleanest. This is distilled, this is tap. We'll start that test because it takes a few minutes. But one question I have here, does water conduct electricity? You know, if it's tap water, it's absolutely filthy. We know it does. If I touch these two wires together, that light goes on. That's an open circuit. If he's an electrician, he'd call it a normally open circuit. If I put it in distilled water, it does exactly what it's supposed to do, and that's nothing. Because those two wires aren't touching, that's an open circuit. It shouldn't light the light. But if I put it in tap water, it closes that gap. There's something in that water that's making that gap close. And the difference between these two waters is, this is absolutely filthy water, this is pure water. Tap water started out as distilled water. In nature, we have lakes, rivers, and streams. The sun heats these vessels of water up and the vapor rises to the upper atmosphere, where it's cooled and condensed back into water. Whenever you take water and change it to vapor, and then back to water, just like this vapor is coming out of the pot here, that's distillation. Rainwater, though, falls through an absolutely filthy atmosphere. It's completely void of anything in it. It's distilled water. But everything in the air is gathered up by the distilled water and taken down to the earth. So you have emissions from factories, smog from cities, solvents from all kinds of chemicals, emissions from cars, trains, planes, and buses. All that is in the air. That's one reason the light is on in the tap water. Our tap water hits the ground. In 1 teaspoon of dirt, we have billions of bacterium, virus, and parasites. The reason we do it is because every animal and insect that's ever lived, reproduced, died, and decomposed has become part of the soil, and that's the food for them. When the rain hits the ground, it picks up these bacterium, virus, parasites, decayed animals, and insects, carries them to a lake, a river, a spring, a stream, a well, it doesn't matter. And that water is full of everything that's in the soil. It comes to a lake, the fish live there, and they die there. And we drink that. We drink everything that's in the soil, every microorganism, everything that comes in contact with water, water absorbs and transports it. Our water comes to a treatment plant where we're chemically treating our water. That's why it's called a treatment plant. Our water is exposed to many chemicals. This is a newspaper from Utah called Capital Connections, news for about people in state government, the Utah State Seal. On the back of it, it says, making sure your water is safe. It's written about Eva Naminsky. She has a PhD in environmental engineering. She's over all 50 water treatment plants in the state of Utah. She says right here, we're learning about very resistant pathogens in water. They're very difficult to kill, so you need strong disinfectants. These chemicals may ultimately cause cancer over your lifetime. So the question becomes, would you rather have diarrhea today or cancer tomorrow? So who wants diarrhea and who wants cancer? Pretty good choice there, huh? That's the two choices we have, drinking tap water. I think that we should drink something else other than that. The cancer they're talking about is prostate cancer, bladder cancer, colon cancers. That's your urinary tract cancers, because that's where the water goes first, and we're exposed to all the chemicals that's in those waters. We know chlorine mixes with acids in water, and that causes trihalomethane compounds. It's linked to spontaneous miscarriages and various cancers. That's according to USA Today newspapers, Johns Hopkins University in New York, and they're the ones that conducted those tests. When our water leaves the water treatment plant, it goes through the pipe system. Sometimes these pipe systems are hundreds of miles long and hundreds of years old. In Ogden, Utah, where we're shooting this, our pipes are 108 years old. They're cast iron with lead joints coming out of a canyon, out of a reservoir. It goes for hundreds of miles here in the city, back and forth to different houses, comes up into our tap, and we turn these taps on and drink out of our beautiful faucets and think nothing about the journey that water was on. And it's a long, filthy journey, because everywhere that water's been is where we walk. So everything that's on the bottom of your shoe is in your water, if you ever think about it that way. That's why when we put the light in tap water, it conducts electricity. There's 80,000 chemicals in our water. In 1903, we had 3 people and 100 dying with cancer. In that 100 years till now, we've developed 80,000 commercially produced chemicals. And right now, 1 in 4 people die with cancer, and 1 in 3 people get cancer, and the cancer rate is still rising. And you think about chemicals in our life. We wash our hair with chemicals, we brush our teeth with chemicals, we wash our clothes with chemicals, we have chemicals on our food. We're a chemical society. The only thing that takes that out of our body is the water we drink. Water absorbs and cleans everything out of our body as it goes through our system. Distilled water is way different. It doesn't conduct any electricity. We know it's absolutely pure water. The journey that distilled water takes is way different than tap water. We bring water in a boiling chamber to boil. The steam rises and leaves all the impurities behind in the boiling chamber. The steam forces the coil, the fan cools the coil, changes the steam into 99.9% pure water. Periodically, we drain this boiling chamber out. So when we've made 50 gallons of water through the distillation process, what was in 50 gallons of water now is trapped in the boiling chamber. When we clean that out, we sometimes are totally amazed with the amount of filth that's in that boiling chamber. Like in Salt Lake City, that's what's in 50 gallons of Salt Lake City water after we clean the boiling chamber out. And people wonder why they're getting sick, why they have diseases. This is Ogden, Utah right here. That's 50 gallons of Ogden City water. Isn't that weird? How much filth is in tap water. You never would believe it unless you see it for yourself. Morgan, up where you work, this is about 80 gallons of Morgan City water. Does that look like one of the chemicals they add at the water treatment plant? It does, doesn't it? It's copper sulfate. Now, the reason that they put copper sulfate in the water up there is because they have algae growing in the pipelines, and copper sulfate is an algicide. Now, algae won't hurt us, will it? We can eat algae, but when it starts to die and rot in water, it smells. You smell the Great Salt Lake when the algae starts to grow and rot. It's got quite an odor to it. Well, when it has that gas inside these pipelines, and they inject chlorine into it, it creates trihalomethane gas. Okay? And that's very carcinogenic. That's where we come up with prostate cancer, bladder cancer, colon cancer. This is, some lady told me the other day she only drinks spring water from North Ogden Spring. That's 30 gallons of the North Ogden Spring, and That's what's in spring water. Whenever you're drinking right out of the dirt, right out of the ground, you're drinking dirt. You're drinking filth. You're drinking everywhere you walk. Okay? You're drinking everything that's on the bottom of your shoe. It doesn't matter where that water's from. The filth is there. These inorganic minerals are what we're drinking. This is right out of a distiller. Does that look like it'd be nice for our inside of our body? Dr. Charles Mayo from Mayo Clinic, he's got a clinic in Arizona and one in Minnesota. His quote here is, "Water hardness, or inorganic minerals in solution, is the underlying cause of many, if not all, diseases resulting from poisons in the intestinal tract. These hard minerals pass from the intestinal walls and get into the lymphatic system, which deliver all of its products to the blood, which in turn is distributed to all parts of the body. This is the cause of much human disease." Dr. Charles Mayo of the Mayo Clinic. In Dr. Bannock's book, The Choice is Clear, he says if you're concerned about arthritis, hardening of the arteries, kidney stones, gallstones, cataracts, glaucoma, loss of hearing, diabetes, obesity, and emphysema, do not drink the inorganic minerals found in water. He just talked about the inorganic minerals. We've talked about 80,000 different chemicals in our water. We've talked about the insects, the bacterium, the virus, the parasites, the dead animals in our water. When I put a distiller in my home the very first week, this is what we took out of our distiller. That's what 6 people would have drank the first week. And when I got shown this to people and shown it to my wife and kids, I says, look, there's actually an animal hair in there. See that animal hair right there? There's 6 animal hairs in this bottle of water. I called the water guy up and I says, how come there's hair in our water this week? And he says, well, I thought we took that all out. I says, well, what was it? He says, we couldn't tell. It's too badly decomposed. I says, well, why didn't you tell everybody was drinking a dead animal this week? And he says, oh, don't worry, we put more chlorine in your water. So, you know, chlorine's 400,000 times more poisonous than DDT. It's linked to a lot of diseases, even cardiovascular disease, because it roughens up the artery walls inside our bloodstream and causes the inorganic minerals to start adhering to them, because a rough spot makes it easier for things to stick. You may go around 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years, 70 years before you have any cardiovascular disease cause you any problems. But if the wrong blood vessel gets plugged off in your heart, they call that a heart attack, don't they? If the wrong one gets plugged off in your brain, they call that a stroke. If the inorganic minerals get into our body, in our joints, in our ears, it causes aging diseases that we don't have any cure for. Right here in the laboratory, let's take distilled water through the same journey the tap water's been on and make the light go on it. We'll have to add a lot of things to it. First thing we'll add to it is bacterium, virus, and parasites. I'll wash my hands in it. 5 parts per million will make this light go on. And we'll see just how dirty my hands are. Pretty clean hands, huh? The tap water is still hundreds of times filthier than the distilled water. But you know the real funny thing about it is, though, you won't drink this water now, will you?
No.
Why not?
Because it has urine.
Yeah, but it's still hundreds of times cleaner than tap water. Did you see what your eyes just did to your brain now? You saw something in your water. What do you really want in your water? Nothing. Me too. When I saw this the first time, that's what I decided. I didn't want anything in my water. I wanted clean water. But we can take it a little bit further and make the light go on. This is some of the inorganic minerals we get out of our distiller. We'll put some of that in there. We'll put some chemical from farms and factories in there. And we'll stir that around. So that's starting to look like Mountain Dew, right? That's what you're thinking? Now we'll take it to the water treatment plant where we'll add a little bit of technology to it. And we'll stir that around and we'll aerate it a little bit, just like even Minsky's talking about there. Add a little technology to the water. Right amount of chemicals, we can make that awful looking water look just like tap water. Isn't that cool? Now let's see if we made it tap water. Yep. Now, according to Ivan Minsky, That's safe water to drink. You don't want to drink it now? Why not? It's safe. What's the definition of safe water? Won't cause diarrhea today. Let's see what we've done here with the TDS meter. This TDS stands for total dissolved solids. That means anything that's totally dissolved in the water will show up with a TDS meter. Now Ron, I want you to read this for me and tell me what parts per million that says. 0. 0.000 parts per million. Now tap water, right from Ogden City here, let's see what that's saying.
296, 308 now.
308. 308 parts per million. Now this water that Teresa wouldn't drink, let's see what that was. After I threw all that filth in there. 54. It's still, what, 6 times cleaner than tap water. Can you imagine how much filth is in tap water?